go and I can non-gavel this to order. Ready? Okay, calling to order the September 15th Chaska Park Board meeting. Mary, roll call, please.
Chair David Rohn.
Here.
Vice Chair Jason Branch.
Here.
Ernesto Ruiz Gutierrez. Joshua Ives. David Downs.
Here.
Matt Uterman.
Here.
Elizabeth Wiving.
Here.
Georgianne Keyport. Here. Jack Suresig.
Here.
All right, thank you, Mary. And just so you all out there might have noticed that many of us are not wearing our masks now, and that is so that we can be better understood when we're talking. We've heard some feedback in the past that with those masks on, it becomes harder. And because of the way that we're all spread out here, we're still kind of in compliance with being able to keep ourselves as safe as we can. And so we've kind of agreed, but we're all comfortable doing so. And so hopefully this makes for a better presentation for everyone. And so with that, item number 3 on our agenda is to adopt the agenda. Assuming everyone has had a chance to review that agenda, I will accept a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move to adopt the agenda.
Okay, Commissioner Uterman, a second. Okay, Commissioner Keyport, and any additional discussion or changes to the agenda that would be recommended? All right, hearing none, we're going to go through kind of a roll call here to get the agenda approved. And starting out, I don't know if Josh can ring in here or not, but I'm going to ask for your approval. Ives? Commissioner Weinveen, adopt the agenda?
I approve.
Okay, Commissioner Branch?
Approve.
Commissioner Downs?
Approve.
Commissioner Uterman?
Yes.
Commissioner Keyport? And Commissioner Suresik? Okay, Commissioner Rohn will agree as well. And so we have agreed to adopt the agenda, which moves us on to item number 4, which is for our visitor presentation. And seeing none, and I do not believe, did you happen to notice anyone else that may have joined the Zoom call, Kevin?
No, it's just part of our members.
Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and close out the visitor presentation here at 7:03. And that moves us on to approving the previous meeting minutes. And going back to last month on those, were there any, well, first off, I would like to get a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
I move to approve.
Okay, Commissioner Downs, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Branch. And any corrections or questions or discussion from last month's meeting minutes? All right, here we go. Same drill again. Commissioner Ives, do you vote to approve the meeting minutes from last month? Commissioner Weinveen?
I approve.
Commissioner Branch?
Approve.
Commissioner Downs?
Approve.
Commissioner Uterman?
Yes.
Commissioner Keyport? Commissioner Suresik? Okay, and I agree as well. So we have approved the August Park Board minutes. And item number 6 is to receive the Council and Planning Commission minutes. And we have those from July 20th and August 3rd for the council. And we do not need a motion for that, but from those minutes, was there any items of comment or discussion that anyone would like to bring up?
I had just noticed that harvest was brought up quite a bit with, and then there was references to, you know, parks, public parks, so this and that. So I was just wondering if we'd maybe touch on some of that this evening.
I saw that. There was just a question that was raised as to whether or not there was going to be like play apparatuses in that park. And I think that that's very preliminary at this point. I don't think that there's probably been any movement as far as the Parks Department is concerned in trying to determine what goes into that park yet.
And Jason, I couldn't hear you. So which park are you referring to?
Oh, it was just mentioned in the council meeting, I believe the most previous, and then it was also mentioned in the planning commission, just has some of their post notes. I just noticed a mention of parks and sidewalks connecting to said park areas.
Oh, sure, over at the Harvest development. Yep. And so, yeah, that would be that new neighborhood park,
Correct, yep.
be part of that development. And
Okay.
so there will be, some sort of playground apparatus, but that hasn't been determined yet.
So still very preliminary.
Yeah.
Okay.
I talked about that some time ago, and it was going to be several months before that really started to get off the ground for any work that we would do. Is that still correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And they'll, of course, engage the neighborhood when that time comes on that. So, yeah. All right. Yeah, that was noticed as well. And then item here, 6C, for the Planning Commission minutes from July 8th. Were there any comments on anything that was read through in those minutes? Okay, hearing none, I didn't see anything either, so we will go ahead, no motion required. We've received those minutes. And that moves us on to item number 7, which is for 7A, and this is the Arts Consortium of Carver County. And I believe that Cindy Anderson, the president of that board, is going to present for us.
Actually, I'm going to start off with that. So I'll
To do that?
kind of
All
get
right.
us started.
Yeah, I'll let Marshall lead into that and we can introduce Cindy from there. Go ahead, Marshall.
All right. Good evening, everybody. And happy Tuesday, a little bit of a different night for us to meet as we typically meet on the second Monday of every month. But the city council met last night. And before I get started on this new business item, I do got to put our park board chair on the spot a little bit. And that is because tonight he is celebrating his 25th wedding anniversary with us. If his wife is out there watching, I want to thank her for allowing her husband to be with us tonight. But more importantly, just congratulations on your guys' marriage. So.
All right. Thanks, Marshall. My face is red.
Any discussion?
Any motions required on that?
Does his wife approve it?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Very nice. Thanks, Marshall.
So yes, Park Board Chair and Commission, I'm excited to share a new business item with you today that involves a potential partnership between our Parks and Recreation Department and the Arts Consortium of Carver County. And as Dave mentioned, Cindy Anderson, who serves as the president of the Arts Consortium, is with us tonight. And after I explain this some more, she'll be giving a presentation to provide you with some more background and information about the Arts Consortium. So tonight's discussion is really to introduce the concept of this partnership and the benefits it can provide, and really just seeking your initial reaction and any questions, suggestions, or concerns you may have to offer for staff to consider as we continue to discuss this partnership. And then ideally, I would like to bring this back to the park board at our next meeting in October and ask for your recommendation for the city council to approve a partnership agreement. So with that, the primary elements of this partnership really has two main parts. The first one being a dedicated space for the Arts Consortium to operate a retail gift shop, which would have local artist products for sale. And we see this occurring in the cafeteria space of the community center. With that, we would relocate the existing 4 vending machines that are in this area and place them in other locations within the building. And other than maybe the Arts Consortium, painting it a different color and warming it up to their style, we'd really only need to bring in phone and internet for them to be able to have a point of sale and whatnot. And then other than that, we really think that this space provides great visibility for people coming into the community center to see this retail space. And it already has the built-in security in which we can lock it on both sides during their non-store hours to keep their items secure. The second component of this partnership would be the opportunity for our recreation program staff to be able to partner with the Arts Consortium on a wide variety of arts programming. And this would really allow us to utilize the art gallery within the community center, the theater, the multi-use spaces there. And I even see potential for partnering on things out in the parks as it relates to some of our community events as well. So oftentimes when we think about parks and recreation, we think about the sports and the physical activity component of what we do. But I'd like to say that, you know, another important element in what we offer people is the arts, you know, and that really allows us to bring programming to people of all ages and all abilities. And, you know, some of you may have experienced other communities that have a strong arts presence and sort of that sense of place that it brings. And, you know, I really think we can build upon that here in Chaska with this partnership with the Arts Consortium. And if you look it up, you know, the benefits are numerous in what arts can do for people, whether it's, you know, socially, culturally, even health, improved health, meditation and things like that, and even economically. And so I really think this can be an exciting partnership for us to explore. We still need to define some of the details and, you know, what the, you know, financial arrangement would be and things like that. One of the models we've discussed initially would be more of a revenue share model, just because I feel that really sets it up to be more of a partnership, and there's incentives on both sides to work together and be successful together. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Cindy, and she can provide some more background and information about the Arts Consortium itself. And then from there, see what feedback you have. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Cindy.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me tonight. Is there a way to share your screen so I can jump on with the PowerPoint?
Yeah, we'll have Kevin here, set you up here in a second.
Okay. In the meantime, happy anniversary, Dave.
Thanks, Cindy.
All right, try that now, Cindy.
Okay. Mm-mm. Are you seeing my screen?
No.
No.
How about now?
There we go.
All right, now we're talking.
Okay, so the Arts Consortium is, well, it's not working. There we go. Our mission of the Arts Consortium of Carver County is strengthening our community through the arts, and it cultivates the arts through the community, or a shorter way to say that is we bring people to the arts and we bring art to the people. And we do this by a variety of different things. We started out though in 2009, we had a study done. The director of the Center for the Study of Art and Community came to Carver County, and they found two different things here. One was that we were alive with art and talented artists, and then the second thing is we had very little communication amongst the artists and between the artists and the communities of Carver County. So in an attempt to close the gaps of that, we recognized that we needed to start something and build an arts community. And with that, we started the Arts Consortium in 2009. I won't bore you with all the details here. You can read, but in 2012, we were officially incorporated as a 501c3 organization. We are 100% volunteer run. We do contract for our website and administrative details like that. From 2013 to 2015, we're just getting our feet under us. We, as a 501c3, bringing more programs into the county with the poetry contests, art stock. We were fiscal sponsor for Art Wander and for Barn Quilts of Carver County, continuing on with that. We helped with exhibits at Ridgeview Medical Center, Carver County Government Facility. We did rotating art exhibits for Victoria City Hall and Shorewood City Hall. And then we continued on with that for a few years. We do many of the contests that we do with the literary area, and the photography has always been a big draw for us. This year in 2015 was our first CD for the songwriters and musicians of Carver County, and we are in our 6th volume now. 2016, we went on, you can see that we're building. We continue to do art stock, and we had the 3rd poetry contest. We did our 2nd music CD. We've continued on with the photography contests, and we are also fiscal sponsors for Art Wander and the Barn Quilts. 2017, we added another area fine art fair, and that was held in Victoria in August. And then we continued on with art stock. The writers continued on with their poetry contests. We had our first flash fiction contest, which was really a superb event where we had lots of people participating and had lots of fun. And then we also had collaborations between the different galleries in the county. The 3rd music CD was created in 2017. We had continued on with the photography, and then we also continued on with our fiscally sponsored and the exhibits at Ridgeview and the various places around the county. We had discussions that year of bringing in a home base for Noterman building. And so these are some of the visuals from that year. And then Noterman building is where we are located currently. And these photos, a lot of the building stages, the Hartmans really went all the way and built it out for the art space for the gallery. And these are some of the events and meetings and just some of the raw footage from when we were in the build period. We had our first event in August of 2018, and it was we had standing room only, and we had people coming in and lining up down the stairs and out the door. So it was a really fabulous event. Highlights of the 2018 is we did the 3 shows. Colors of Summer was the first, member show second, and then the holiday gift show. And then art fairs, we continued on with the art fairs, both Victoria Fine Art and Art Stock. And all the while then we continued with the gallery and gift shop. Other things from 2018, we're continuing on and building momentum all the way. These are some of the photos from the music CD release party, and we have that at the Chaska, at the gazebo each year. This year we had to cancel with that. Going into 2019, we have the gallery and gift shop, and then we went through all of the different exhibits that you see here. Very well attended. This is an example of some of the artwork and how the gift shop is set up for the gift shop, and some are from the holiday market. 2019, we also brought in, we continued on with our photography, literary, music, art stock, and Victoria Fine Arts, and at Art Wander, Edge of the Big Woods. 2020, we started out strong. We have the gallery and gift shop open. The gallery art exhibits that we were able to produce were the Portraits and Family and the Youth Art Show. And then after that, it was canceled. And then Artists of Color, we just had as a preliminary show this past July and August. And we produced the 6th music CD for the songwriters and musicians of Carver County. And that was rescheduled for the end of September, but that is now canceled as well. So, so our events were solidly planned, but we did have to make new plans. And so basically our volunteers are working really hard to create the first ACC virtual gallery now and gift shop to continue to lift the arts up in our communities during this pandemic. And so we'll be going live with this feature very soon. And then we're also continuing with the member show and the holiday gift market at the Chaska Community Center. We feel that gives it enough space to effectively bring people in without worry, and because you can keep your distance and really make the best of a worse situation. So we are seeking to collaborate with all. There's my contact information, but this is really the states who we are. We're artists, poets, writers, musicians, dancers, actors, painters, sculptors, art lovers, educators, collaborators, event planners, organizers, contributors, volunteers, and most importantly, we are all community members. So we are the Arts Consortium, and we would really love to be able to promote the arts within the county with Chaska at the community center. Thank you. I will unshare my screen and you can, actually I'm not finding where I stop here. There we go. All right, so does anyone have any questions that I might be able to answer?
I've got a question. You've got the art gallery and gift shop now,
Correct.
and the one that you were talking about for the community center would be similar to that?
Right, we would, basically, we can turn any space into an art gallery and gift shop. So the cafeteria is where we are looking at to house the gift shop. And then the gallery is in the natural gallery that the community center already has set up.
No, the question was really centered around the marketing side of it.
Oh.
That you've got a location that's relatively close to the community center now. Is this applicable to really Chaska residents that aren't visiting the current facility? Is it putting another location to increase your reach?
We would be moving out of the Victoria location and into the Chaska location.
Oh, so you're gonna close down that facility, and this will be in lieu of it?
Yes, that's what our plans would be.
Oh, I see. Okay, that answers my question.
Perfect.
I've got a question, Cindy, and since Marshall brought it to my attention that these discussions were underway, I've taken some time to have looked at your website and everything that you have to offer there, and I think that the opportunities here are just boundless. You know, the audience that you're going to have access to now in that community center compared to being in the lower level of the building in Victoria, as nice as it is, there's going to be a big difference in that. And I just think that there's all kinds of win-win possibilities on this. But the question I had, and one of the things I was looking at is because I've got some, friends that do some artistic work, but they do not live in Carver County. And from what I was reading from your website is that you don't actually have to be a resident of Carver County to become a member of the consortium. Is that true?
That is true.
Okay.
So we open our arms to artists all over. We open our membership to new people. We have the different exhibitions throughout the year as well. And we open those up to everyone. And then the member show is the only show that if you're not a member, you cannot be in, even though we do I lost the word.
No worries.
So,
Let me move on to my next question.
we
As
have-
far as the potential
Yes.
for programming and what have you, and what I really like about this opportunity is the fact that we're going to have lots of people that are coming to the community center for a wide variety of reasons are now going to become aware of your organization, and it's going to give you great exposure in that way. But not only that, but you've also got, facilities there at the community center. You've got the gallery, we have the different meeting rooms, and with that gives you the opportunity for some more of those workshops, not only just the workshop space that you could have there for the different artists that want to be able to hold those types of things, but you've also got access to, there's a school in that building, and you've got the active older adults that are in there at the lodge. And so you've got these different demographics that are now getting exposed. And I just think it's just a great opportunity there. And I'm sure that's not lost on you.
Right, most definitely.
And one of the things I also wanted to point out, because I thought it was just interesting, is that I saw that one of the classes, which among so many of them this year that had to be canceled, but you had actually a photography class for people that wanted to take better pictures with their smartphones. I thought that was a great idea.
There is an art to that.
You can take better selfies, Dave?
Yeah, I need some help in that area. A lot of filters needed.
Well, we are ready for you when we can start back up.
All right, that's all I had.
Perfect.
I've got another question. If everything went swimmingly, what would be your date of opening in the community center?
So right now we have a member show that's set to start on October 7th. And so our ideal date was to make it so we are there and able to facilitate that member show. And then from there, go on to the holiday gift market and move that in. So we were going to take it in bits and pieces. So if we are in for the member show, and then that gives us time to pull our retail gift shop and set that stuff up, and temporarily right now until we have the formal approval.
This be something, Marshall, that, that the rules as they apply to the community center now as far as COVID, where it's only members at this point, they're going to open up, and I assume that we would want that open to the community as a whole, whether they're members or not. Is that in the offing for this?
Correct, yes. So backing up a little bit, just kind of going back to, when the earliest kind of formal partnership would be based on the approval process. So if we bring this back, if we feel like we have everything ready to present, next month at the park board meeting, and we get your recommendation, we would then take it to the city council that following week. So we're looking at kind of mid-October. But as far as bringing people into the building, you're correct. And we've had some discussion about that. And the reality is, I think as the weather starts turning and we're doing some more programming, we're starting to see more activity in the building. But I know Cindy's fully aware of needing to develop a COVID preparedness plan that would be specific to the gift shop. And then we've even talked about, an exhibit in the gallery. Maybe initially we set up some specific viewing events where people from the consortium could be on hand to help monitor that space and ensure people are following proper protocols and whatnot, which would allow us to still kind of have a little bit of control of who's coming in and out of the building.
Mhm.
I'm with Dave. I think it's a great opportunity. I think it'd be good for everybody.
I have a question. Cindy, I've been to the shop in Victoria. It's beautiful. Is the footprint about the same size, or is there a difference, a significant difference?
So if we're looking at the gift shop alone versus gift shop and gallery, and it's a very similar footprint. It's just very oddly patterned. So we will make use of the space that is there. And then also we were going to utilize with hanging structures along the open window areas and treat those as a gallery wall. So you could see through there, but you'd still have art coming in. The footprint itself is not exactly the same. It's just, it's going to be different. And then, of course, the gallery that stands now at the community center is much larger into that area, or a featured artist could go into that area. It's just a matter of figuring it out when we get there, what's going to work best, because with the footprint the way it is now, it's kind of a triangle with a rectangle, and so there's a lot of different corners that we need to take into.
So did the consortium, did she go away? Did the consortium manage that gallery area previously? Or currently, I should say?
In the community center,
Yeah.
no.
So
Yeah,
who?
so currently,
The city of Chaska, the Parks and Rec.
My question.
Yep. So one of our recreation staff, Sydney, has primarily been our point person to schedule exhibits in that space. Typically, they've been on a monthly basis. I would say many times they actually featured artists that are in the consortium. But I think this prevents or creates a unique opportunity in, the consortium, and the way Cindy explained it really comes up with themes that they go by, and then multiple artists can contribute to that gallery space based on that particular theme, which I think then can lend itself to, some additional programming off of that as well. There are a couple of user groups and partners that we talked about, still maintaining the ability to display some artwork. So for instance, our Treks and Trails preschool, that's been one of their projects, is to, display their artwork. So you'd want to maintain that. And we also have a relationship with the school where we showcase their capstone projects. But that's all stuff that, we can figure out as we go forward.
So the consortium moving in doesn't necessarily move
And
any.
it kind of intertwines.
Sorry, what's that again?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Oh, I was just going to say, we kind of are intertwining on the schools too. We did an exhibit with the IAA, and then we also did it with District 112 students and youth. So we have a really strong connection with the schools, and we want to make sure that we can promote that too. So we're all thinking on the same lines.
Yeah, that was kind of to my question, was that, so this doesn't necessarily push any of that existing programming out, because it looks like a lot of times when you walk in that west entrance, you see, it looks like a lot of student artwork there.
Yep.
So it's sort of TBD with the consortium coming in and existing programming to find a way to make it just to
Work
make it all
together.
work. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right, outstanding. Thank you, Cindy. Are there any other questions from anybody on the commission for Cindy on this?
I think, Cindy, you do a fantastic job. We had interaction with the Art Wanderer, which has been awesome over the years. I also think a strong community also has strong arts. And I always like to look at it from a business perspective. It brings a creative folk out here. And I think we see growing in momentum and endless possibilities, maybe even bands in the theater, a better utilization. The only question I had maybe for Marshall is we do have a lot of people that use that space to gather as a community space. Do we see those folks pushing out into different spaces if this is occupied by the art space?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that, we got to think about and, sort of the trade-off, but, comparing that to the benefit of this partnership, and quite frankly, I think the new norm with COVID, doesn't lend itself to gathering spaces as much, but we do still have a decent sized gathering space outside of our front desk area there that typically would have tables, and there still is that rotunda area, where people can still view the pool through the windows. I think that can still accommodate parents that are, peeking in while their kids are taking swim lessons and things like that. Yep.
Question.
I had a question. Is the consortium going to be paying rent to the community for the use of this space, as it is taking away from other uses of the community center?
Yep, good question. So, I think there's a couple of ways we can look at this, and, one would be to come up with a lease agreement for that particular dedicated space. Even as we think about programming, we obviously do that with other entities in which we can just rent space to people. But as I think about more of the essence of a partnership, I think a revenue share model is more of a partnership model, whereas I think the lease and the rent of space is a little bit more of a transactional relationship. And so I think we would just need to figure out, what a revenue share would look like. It's probably likely different in the retail space as it may be to the, collaboration on programming. But those would be things too where, I would seek your guys's, feedback if you feel one way or the other on what that should look like.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. Any other questions or comments?
Well,
All right.
Thank you
go
for
ahead.
the opportunity.
Well, no, Cindy, thank you very much for the presentation and sharing that with us. I think that you can feel from our feedback that we're pretty enthusiastic about this as well. So again, thank you very much, and nice job.
Great, thank you.
Music CD of all the Carver County musicians. It's like the city's sampler, Carver County's
Yes.
version of the city's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't even know it existed. I'd
I
love
had
to
no
check it
idea
out.
either.
yeah. I've clicked on a couple of the songs there.
So you would be very impressed. They've got some wonderful artists, and Carver County has just a tremendous wealth of talent, and the musicians and songwriters here are just very impressive. So if you get a chance, once we're out and about and the CD release party ever comes, that's going to be a really fun time, but you can always buy the CDs. We have volumes 1 through 6. And then adding on to the theater, we also would like to pull the music events, more music events into the theater area and literary events.
All right, for those out there watching, Arts Consortium of Carver County. It is an easy Google search where you can find out more about this organization. All right, thanks again, Cindy.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, so with that, that closes out item number 7 for new business, which moves us into item number 8, which is discussion items. And we'll turn it over to Director Grange for 8A, Nick Mason Scholarship Fund update.
Great, thank you. So those of you who may not know that are newer on the park board, Nick Mason was a former park board member. I think he had served close to 9 years on the board, but unfortunately passed away a little over 1.5 years ago due to cancer. And it was his and his family's wish to set up a scholarship fund, specifically for Parks and Recreation. So those that may not have the resources to participate in programming, to be able to do so. And in Nick's words, he said, everybody deserves a chance, which I think is a good statement. And so with that, we were able to set up that scholarship fund right away so that his family and friends could contribute towards it as part of his memorial. But from there was still a lot of work we needed to do to sort of bring it to life. We had to establish a committee, establish criteria, think about how we're gonna continue to grow and sustain this scholarship fund. And so Erin Link, who is our recreation program manager, has really been the person to lead those efforts and has done a fantastic job. And so she's here with us tonight to provide an update with some of those efforts that have been made. So from there, I'll turn it over to Erin.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thanks for having me. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces and then a few new ones as well. So I am going to kind of talk through the process with this project on where I kind of took over from Marshall and Anna kind of getting this started. And I'm going to share my screen. This always stresses me out. So let me know if you can see it. Oh. Okay. Can you guys see it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
All right. How about now?
Coming. There it is.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what I'm showing you here is actually a page on our new website that's not quite live yet. So this page isn't live to the public yet, but will be sometime soon. So I'm kind of just going to walk through, like I said, the process of, Anna Mason and Marshall worked to kind of get this started, to establish the fund and kind of identify its purpose. And then Marshall kind of turned it over to me. And so my first step was really to pull together a committee of people to kind of help talk through what this could look like, and to help, establish what the criteria should be. But I'm going to first start by just reading the purpose here. The purpose of the fund is to help low-income families or those with special needs to support their participation in the City of Chaska's Parks and Recreation programs, services, or to purchase equipment that allows for more inclusive participation. Equipment supported by this fund would be purchased by the Chaska Parks and Recreation Department and used for group programming. So besides having this scholarship fund hopefully support those who are in financial need, another big piece of this was the hope to have this scholarship fund really support our families and individuals with special needs as well. And that second part that's speaking to the inclusive equipment, we had decided that there was some discussion if this fund could support, equipment that would be needed for individuals. And we wanted to start with with potentially utilizing funds for more group participation or for some of our adaptive programs that we have here at the community center. If we needed an equipment item that could be used for a group participating here, with the hope that if this fund continues to grow, that maybe we can support more individual needs in the future. For our eligibility criteria, we did set this. Oh, I should back up just a minute here. Before I pulled this committee of people together to talk through some of this, I did do some research with some other communities to kind of see what other scholarship fund or scholarship programs look like within different communities. So I think there were maybe about 5 or 6 different places that we had looked at, and I shared that information with the committee on our first meeting. And what we ended up determining for a criteria is that the participant must be a resident of Chaska. We had some fairly lengthy conversation on this with Chaska having a recreation agreement with the city of Carver. At first we're leaning towards having this be available for Chaska and Carver residents. And the reason that we kind of scaled back to just Chaska, at least for now, was just thinking that we would be able to grow and kind of reach a broader group once we have a better feel for how quickly the funds are being requested and being used. So we're going to start with residents of Chaska with the thought that in the future we could grow and reach out to Carver as well. And then the option 1 here for criteria speaks to some county financial assistance. That option 1 is pretty consistent across different communities and their scholarship programs. And the option 2 is a little more unique, I think, to Chaska. And so we really wanted this to be pretty broad. That first option there, which would be an unexpected circumstance, such as a medical expense or loss of job, I think right now as we're going through COVID, is especially important. And then that other piece is speaking to kind of supporting someone with a special need. And a lot of the conversation that our committee had around this is that, you know, we may have a family who might not fit the criteria that they need financial assistance, but they have someone living in their family who has a special need. And a lot of times there's some pretty big expenses that go along with that. So, but that's kind of a unique, option 2 is kind of unique to this Chaska program. We looked at the eligibility benefit really is pretty consistent across different communities as well, where the scholarship funds would help support 50% of a program fee, and we would ask that the participant pay 50% when they register. And we did create a maximum per person and per family. We're hoping that you know, this is something that we can help support quite a few families down the road. And so having that maximum was kind of important there. This scholarship fund is really intended for programming. So we just kind of listed a few of the eligible programs, and then the exclusions. A lot of these exclusions are a little bit more related to facility rentals and things like that, or things that we kind of determined were a little bit more like adult league registrations. Usually there's one teammate who pays for the team versus everybody needing to pay. So we kind of thought through some of those exclusions and listed those. We have a couple, well, I guess going back to the funds. So I should back up. We are working with a group called Community Giving, and Anna and Marshall kind of set that up from the start, but that is a nonprofit organization that our Carver County Community Foundation works with to kind of do the fiscal management for the Carver County Foundation funds. And so the Nick Mason Fund is one of those. So for people to make a donation to this, they actually would do that right on the Community Giving site. And I have created a kind of a login with that site so I can view what our scholarship fund balance is at any time. But a few kind of ideas that we have thought of for future to try to sustain this fund. Besides getting the word out for individuals to donate, would be to add some of this language to our sponsorship program that we send out to businesses as an option for them to support this fund. And then also looking at some of our special events or community events that we do. I think a lot of you might be aware, a lot of our events, or most of them are usually free events that are kind of open to anyone in the community. So maybe looking at one of those events that we do, or one or two throughout the year, that we ask for a donation for this fund in lieu of a fee. There's a couple ways that people can apply for this. And so there's an online application. See if I can click on this. That's just a Google form. And then we also just have the paper kind of PDF option here for people to print or available at the front desk of the community center. This is something that just kind of went live last week, so it's very new. And then I'll show you what this link looks like right down here for where people are directed to on the community giving site to make a donation. And from here is where you would choose the fund. So you'll see there's a lot of them. Nick Mason Fund is one of the longest ones, so I always look for that. But this is where someone would go if they wanted to donate to the Nick Mason Fund. Whoops. Oh, okay. I think I stopped sharing my screen, but that's okay because I think I was done with that. But so for now, I'm going to be the one in our department to kind of process these requests and these applications. And as long as they are kind of fitting within the criteria that we've established, that's will be the process for that. If we have requests that come through that fall outside of kind of the criteria that we established, that's where I would reach out to that committee again, and we would kind of talk through those to see if, you know, as a group, we can kind of decide if that's something that we should move forward with or not. But a cool thing that just happened recently is I had an individual from Bell Bank contact me, and he was looking to for some opportunities to help support kids in their recreation or sports. And his employer, Bell Bank, has a Pay It Forward program where employees each receive, full-time employees receive $1,000 to be given to a charity of their choice. And so he had been directed to me, and we talked through the Nick Mason Fund, and then he emailed me a little bit after that he had made his donation. So exciting news there. And I think the balance right now for the Nick Mason Fund is just a little over $8,000. It will be something that we'll just, as we roll out this new program, kind of monitor the requests and the usage to see if, you know, we need to be setting kind of some limits per year to hopefully be able to sustain this for a while. Are there any questions on the Nick Mason Scholarship Fund?
I've got a couple of questions, Erin. Are you going to plan a marketing campaign of any sort to be able to solicit donations to the fund?
Yeah, we did just roll it out last week in one of our Park and Rec electronic news pieces that goes out to a listserv of about 3,500 people. A lot of our community center members, and then other people that have added themselves to that listserv. And like I said, we're hoping, you know, we're not, our sponsorship program is kind of at a standstill right now, just with COVID and not wanting to, you know, feeling appropriate to reach out to businesses for support right now at this time. But I think that will be something big in the future as our sponsorship program kind of supervisor is talking with businesses. She can definitely make them aware of this program as well. And we'll do some ongoing, you know, kind of reach out to people through Facebook and things like that, you know, throughout the year.
Good. And you said the fund, excuse me, currently had about $8,000 in it. What would the optimum be for that fund? how much do you think the expenses, how much do you think you could spend a year that would be really beneficial to people? How much of a fund would you need to be able to do that? Do you have any idea?
I really have no idea. I think, Marshall and I have talked about this a little bit on just kind of really over the first year or two, kind of seeing how many requests are coming through and what those dollar amounts come to. And if we kind of start to track how much, we're giving out in the scholarship funds for the, those first couple of years, that might help us determine maybe what we should kind of shoot for. I mean, I think $1 million would be great if we can get there. But we'll start with 8,000.
Yeah, I think, if we really get kind of creative in the marketing of this thing, and how, once it gets started and you can show examples of, not people by name certainly, but what it's doing to help people and help the community and all that stuff, and give a little push. I think there's quite a few people in the community that would be generous.
Yeah, and actually I was going to mention the aspect of kind of sharing stories. So I'm hoping that, once we've had some people who have utilized this program, that they will be, comfortable maybe sharing their story if they had somebody in their family that benefited from the scholarship fund and participated in a, soccer program or an art class or whatever it might be. If we can kind of help share that story of how that really, helped them. We will definitely add those types of things to our webpage and share those stories through, social media and those types of things.
And there's a couple other things that we had talked about too, in that Nick's wife, Anna, has a desire to even seek some corporate grants that might be eligible to go towards such a scholarship. And then another strategy that we could look at is positioning this scholarship sort of at the checkout basket of our online registration for our programs. So as people are registering, there could be that checkout item where they could select a simple $1, $5, or whatever it may be. Even if they don't select anything, it still puts it out there to make more people aware that that scholarship exists.
Yeah, even if, when you had participation, or when you have people sign up to become members, if you said, we'd like you to donate, would you be willing to donate $20 to this fund? It really helps the community. And if you do, we'll take another $20 from the membership cost and put it into that fund as well. Some program where, you can really get creative and stuff like this, and it would be fun.
So I know what it's like to set some of this stuff up. So you've done a lot of heavy lifting and lowered a lot of barriers. I was going to spin off the marketing question is are we going to market it to people that need it? We talk about marketing it to give more money into the fund, but are we going to market it to people that are in need? Maybe to your idea, Marshall, of at checkout, we have a need. Would you be eligible for the Nick Mason Fund? And then my other question is, I'm glad you're working with the community fund. There's always a cost of time and money to administer these programs, so that's cool. I'd imagine that you've paved the way for others to say, here's another named scholarship, the Rowan Foundation or what have you. I don't know if this establishes it as such, but if there's $8,000 or more, I know there's been people in the past have expressed interest if they've lost a child, or if they wanted to honor somebody, or they've been around for 25 years and a legacy, something or other. Does this pave the way for somebody to have a named scholarship similar to the Nick Mason one with a similar blueprint? And is $8,000 the threshold?
Does anybody else have feedback on that?
I think, the way you're approaching it now is, getting the thing stable and off the ground. And, it'll blossom by itself if things are, if it's as good as we think it's going to be for the community and for people, it'll blossom by itself, and it's just going to need a little tender loving care to get it off the ground and get it hopping, I think.
Yeah, and I think maybe it, may just depend on, what is the type of cause that they're wanting to set up another particular fund for. You know, at a certain point, I think the reality comes to, you know, staff time and administration and management of it. So we'd have to weigh that in too.
I had a question. Maybe this is for Erin, maybe this is for Marshall. I just was curious about what the thought process was for not allowing memberships to be part of this program. So it mentioned that the allocations of the funds couldn't be used for memberships or daily fees, like for layoffs or financial hardship for people maybe who are members of the community center. Like, doesn't seem like they would be eligible for this. I was just curious what the thought process was for that.
Yeah, I think I can explain kind of what our thought process was with the committee, but when, you know, looking at this fund really being, you know, writing the purpose kind of statement for supporting for programs, I guess we, you know, had kind of looped in the membership and daily fees and those types of things, or facility rentals more into the facility aspect versus the programming. And that seemed pretty consistent with a lot of other communities as well. And I think another piece that kind of goes in with membership is the kind of ongoing payment versus, you know, a shorter, maybe, you know, 4-session or 4-week or 6-week kind of class. But I'm not sure if Marshall, if you have any answer for that as well.
Yeah, and I think it's one that, you know, we can monitor over time to see, you know, if we're getting those requests or if people are asking for that. You know, I think our initial kind of thought process was more around programming and, you know, some of those developmental skills that are important for people to develop over time. You know, and also to be a little restrictive to begin with, so that, you know, we're not going through the fund balance so quick, so to speak. Yep.
And I think this, just, you know, my only piece of feedback on that would be that, you know, that's one of those things where it's some of the programming stuff. I think it's sound logic and it's great what you and Erin are both talking about. My only feedback on that would be that, like, a family membership at the community center, you know, engages the whole family because the whole family is impacted by a layoff or financial hardship in a household. And that, even if it's just a month, that's covered by, oh, you know what, you're having a financial hardship, we're going to cover it. It's covered by the Nick Mason Scholarship Fund.
Yep.
Whatever it may be. But I don't know, just my 2 cents.
Yep.
I think sounds like a phenomenal program and a great cause, and it sounds like he was a great guy.
And actually, I just had one thought too regarding membership that just popped into mind, is that we do have a separate kind of a reduced membership rate, a whole separate policy. I feel like I don't have the details right now, but maybe Marshall knows more on the kind of reduced or discounted membership options that we do have. So we were looking at that separate too, that the membership already had some options. I can't remember if it's 50% off or what that membership piece is, but there is something that we do already have in place. So.
Yep. Yeah, we partner with some of the local organizations that work with people that are, you know, going through difficult times and whatnot, and provide a discounted membership there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably a vast majority of the people that are going to take advantage of this program won't be members. They'll be members of the community, they'll be Chaska residents, but they're not going to be members of the community center. And they'll go into programs where the programs are open to everybody, not right now, but normally, where residents pay so much and non-residents pay a little bit more. But those would be the people I would think that would benefit from this thing, not the kids of a family membership.
Good point. Any other questions for Erin? All right, hearing none. Thank you very much for the presentation, Erin. And looks like the Nick Mason Scholarship Fund is off to a good start. Excited to see what that evolves into. So we'll go ahead and close out item 8A and move into 8B, the Lake Grace Trail Connection update.
Right. So last month I introduced the Lake Grace Trail project, in which we reviewed a concept plan, a design that ultimately created that connection from the existing Lake Grace Trail over to the underpass that was installed underneath Highway 41 a couple years ago. And then that concept design also incorporated some trail enhancements. It's about a quarter to a third mile long of some trail enhancements that was really taking into account, you know, ideally the desire to be able to maintain that trail during the winter, which would require a wider trail than what currently exists there. You know, but with that, I had talked about there are some site conditions that does make that difficult, along with the fact that there are some townhomes over there in which their patios are right up against the existing trail. So we were trying to be mindful of that as well. So that concept design I reviewed was really kind of the grand plan to, you know, try to accomplish everything. As we went and got current estimates, the cost of that to do that complete project came in right around $1 million to do it all. And so, you know, that is higher than, you know, what I think our city administrator had earmarked for this project as part of the overall 41 improvement plan. And so with that, myself, Public Works Director Brian Jung, along with our city engineer, Matt Clark, are really kind of going back and looking at, you know, what is it we need to do to, you know, really just accomplish the primary goal of making that connection to the underpass. So obviously that still involves a bridge of some sort. And then from there, there are some trees that definitely would need to get removed to make that passable. You know, we'd be looking at some trail repair work there. But I think looking at that as sort of a phase one to make the connection. And then from there, give it a little bit of time and evaluate and see what feedback we're getting that could then inform us on what the next steps would be for whether or not additional trail enhancements are needed. And so we're working through that, trying to get some new numbers and options that we can then go back and have conversations with the residents and then bring it back to the park board. So with that, see if there's any questions or thoughts you may have on that project.
How far off was the $1 million from Matt's thought?
I think that from what I understand, I think we were looking at closer to about a $500,000 project. So, and with that too, I should mention that as we're looking at, you know, the work we would need to do to accomplish the primary goal, Brian Jung also thinks that some of his crew within park maintenance and public works can perform some of the work out there too. So we're really just trying to get creative in how we can minimize the cost and still accomplish the goal out there.
After the last meeting, I shared with a bunch of my neighbors the video of the renderings and everything, and everybody was really pumped about the trail getting connected this fall possibly. But you know, I think everybody gets it. You know, gotta do it in a financially feasible way. But two pieces of feedback that I got from two of the families that I shared this with were both related to safety. Two of the families that I shared this with in my neighborhood have a high school student. And even though the high schools right now are doing distance learning, they're planning to try to get back to a hybrid model here by the second week of October. And both of them said that'll be great for safety wise, because then my son or daughter can just go underneath 41 instead of, they can just ride the bike right over to the high school from our neighborhood. And but they went right to safety right away, specific to a high school student. So I thought that was interesting because I didn't think of it from that standpoint.
Yeah, then they don't have to go up and cross that real busy intersection. Yep. Yeah, I think it's a really key link, to get people east and west up there and over to the school. And I think you had mentioned even just going grocery shopping on your bike or whatever it may be. So
Walking over to Target to do grocery shopping. I mean, I don't know if that's possible to come away with a 2-bagger from Target.
yeah, you might need a different bike, but
it's funny. I did shoot some video of the trail of what it's like, because I think the artist rendering that we saw last month didn't really necessarily do it justice. But I should have sent it to Kevin, and we could have maybe linked it up. But
yeah. Well, if you want, you can email that to me, and I can distribute it out to the park board, for those that may not be familiar with that particular trail.
It's just such an interesting piece of terrain, because we come in on that east side of Lake Grace and the southeast side there, it's just so narrow. But then it really opens up as you progress back down towards where the actual connection is going to go to get you over to go underneath in the tunnel. Plus, the guy who lives, the family that just moved in on the corner over there, just built a really sweet deck out there. I think it's going to make for some great scenery for people walking by. It's like Mr. Miyagi's backyard back there right now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Marshall related to the Lake Grace Trail connection? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close out item 8B, move on to 8C, which is the Chaska Community Center operations update.
All right. So things continue to progress at the community center. As expected overall, I think, we're still obviously slower than what we're normally accustomed to. And I anticipated that even from last month to this month, knowing in August, people are generally trying to get in, some vacation time. The weather's still nice. People can still recreate outside, and I think right now, most people's time and energy is on school. And, I think that's going to take us a couple weeks to really understand the impact of going back to school. But as I had mentioned, when we first opened, we intentionally kind of started very restrictive and small, and then we were going to gradually, add things to the mix. And so we've done that, over the last month. We've brought in open skate options for people to enjoy the ice arena on Fridays, and then there's a Saturday time slot as well. And then the other big one as of recently is we've brought in the option for the member daycare. And thus far, we're seeing that as a popular option. I think almost all of the morning time slots are getting full, and now some of the evening ones are too. But those tend to be popular for parents to be able to drop off their kids and then be able to attend a group fitness class. Some things that we're still looking to do, and I'll just run down this list so you have a sense of where we're at is the things that are still unavailable would be our steam room, our sauna, the variety of drop-in gym programs. So pickleball, basketball, volleyball, our indoor playground, the playroom, is still not available. Birthday parties, and then we're still currently operating under members only. And so we did do a survey. So we sent out a survey to the members trying to get a little bit of feedback to inform some decisions going forward. We're trying to hone in on what days and times and things like that people prefer. And then additionally, what I wanted to share with was a few of the questions. One of them was, so the Chaska Community Center has done a good job with cleaning and sanitation procedures. And so of the responses, which we got, about 350 people responded, 67% responded that they either agree or strongly agree. And then we've got the that Minnesota Nice that says neutral, it's 32%. And then less than 1% indicated that they disagreed or strongly disagreed. So that was good news. Regarding the question, I feel safe when visiting the Chaska Community Center. Again, we had 67% indicating they strongly or agree or strongly agree. 28% were neutral, and then less than 5% indicated that they disagree or strongly disagree. And I was thinking about that more, and that might even be people that are choosing not to even come quite yet because they don't feel quite safe, not necessarily when they get there. And then the other question we asked was around whether or not the online registration system for access is a successful way for us to manage the capacity within our facility. And with that, we had 51% agree or strongly agree, 34% were neutral, and that puts it about 10% either disagreed or strongly disagreed. So that was good information for us because I think we continue to try to assess that requirement of registering online for a specific time slot and what you're going to use in the facility. But to hear that, generally, 50 to 80% agree or kind of neutral about it tells us that we should at least continue with that methodology and then continue to kind of keep a beat on that over time before we would make a change. But some of the other outcomes from that survey as it relates to feedback on hours is that we will be expanding our hours beginning October 1st. So Monday through Friday, we're going to be opening earlier. So we'll be starting at 5 a.m. and going till 9 p.m. Saturday, we'll be at 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then we're going to still remain closed on Sundays. Again, that was based on the survey data. It was very apparent that, Sundays are kind of the least desired day of the week. And, it really provides us an opportunity to continue to manage some of the operating expenses throughout this time period. But we also do bring in staff to do some additional deep cleaning on those Sundays as well. Another item we'll be bringing into the mix beginning October 1st will be the option for personal training. So we'll see how that goes. And then in general, as I mentioned earlier, we're just starting to see some more activity at the community center. So as you know, we lease to the Breakaway Academy. And so their school is up and running. And so we're seeing those kids navigate our hallways. And then additionally, Erin Link, who we heard from, and her staff are starting to put some things together for some programming to occur at the community center. We see that, there's some opportunity, in kind of that mid to late afternoon when kids are finishing up with school, and especially if they're doing more of the online learning, to get them over to the community center for some other activities, following all the guidelines and doing it more in small groups. But it could even, give parents a little reprieve and allow them to get some of their remote work done at the same time as well. So we're generally continuing to ramp up, and I would expect that we'll see that a little bit more and more over time, especially as the weather starts turning and we approach winter. Any questions on the community center?
Hey, Marshall, I was just curious, what are your visitor counts looking like now per day?
Yes, I'd say we're averaging right around 400 to 500 per day. For the month of August, the number of scan-ins for the month of August was right around 5,000. In typical years past, I would say we're closer to that 20 to, on a good year, 25,000 scan-ins throughout a month of August. So, we're seeing a kind of base, it's interesting that we're at 25% capacity, and we're seeing about 25% of the scans that we typically see. Even though, our membership, we've seen cancellations and we've dropped in our membership. So, still taking some time to try to kind of figure out what the impact and what the trends are. But I think we're going to know more as the weather turns, where we should be expecting more people to come in, and I think we've done everything we can to make it as safe as possible and comfortable for people to come back, and so we just got to continue to make people aware of that. And you were asking about the lodge?
Oh, yes. What about the lodge?
Yes, so the lodge would be another one that we're taking a close look at. We are moving forward with some specific times for driver's safety classes. So I think that'll be a good start. And I know we're looking at, I don't think we can get back to the point where the doors are just open and seniors can come in anytime they want and just sort of socially hang out like they used to, which is unfortunate. But, similar to the membership, we just got to create opportunities where a set number of people would just have to pre-sign up, so we can ensure that it's a safe experience and staff can manage it.
All right, any other questions for Marshall on Community Center? Moving on, item 8D, Curling and Event Center Operations Update.
Right, so over at the Curling and Event Center, Summer League is finishing up, which I think went really well. There weren't any major issues, and I think a lot of the curlers were happy to get back out on the ice. According to Jeff over there, he has indicated that the member practices on the ice is really seeing an increase compared to years past. And then we're also seeing a lot of the national high performance athletes using up practice time in preparation of the Olympics. And what's really cool too is we're seeing more and more wheelchair athletes coming over to utilize the ice. This evening at midnight, so there is still a little bit of time, marks the end of Winter 1 League registration. As of this afternoon, we had 188 teams registered for Winter 1. So that's a really strong turnout. A complete sellout would be 211 teams. So that's a pretty high percentage of people coming back to curl for the Winter 1 league. So we're happy about that. And I think that the Crooked Pint will be happy about that as well, because it should drive some more business over to the restaurant. Another interesting tidbit too is that some staff from U.S. Curling Organization was on site at our facility last week, and they were taking some video because they ultimately want to produce kind of a returning to curling safely throughout COVID type of video that will go on the USA Curling's website. So another opportunity to showcase the Chaska Curling Center in the background there. What else? We're also looking forward to the Minnetonka High School has a Vantage program, and their group's actually going to be returning to our facility again. They've been doing this over the past several years, where they utilize the curling center, they utilize the event center for team building, and then they go out in the park and do different activities. So we're happy to see that they're returning and valuing that experience with the facility here. And so that'll actually be occurring in the next couple of weeks. And then here in the event center, we're starting to see some more activity as well. So I think Krista had mentioned that out of the next 15 days, this facility is being occupied 12 of those 15 days. Some of that's with that Vantage program, but then there are some city events occurring. There's a birthday party along with a groom's dinner planned. And then rentals are picking up, looking ahead for 2021. So all of the Saturdays next year, May through August, are already booked here in the event center. So that's good news too. Any questions on the Curling and Event Center?
All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close out item 8D. Move on to item 8E, bicycle friendly community update.
All right, so I actually just booked this afternoon. So I set up our next bicycle friendly community committee, say that fast a few times, meeting a few weeks out from now. So that's going to occur on Thursday, October 8th. That committee sort of hit a lull like a lot of things did with COVID. But now that we're sort of getting back to a little normalcy and, our facilities are back up and running and things of that nature, I'm excited to reconvene that group and kind of revisit some of the ideas that were coming out of the teams that we formed, and really just try to understand, what is it that we can continue to do to further enhance, Chaska as a bicycle friendly community. And I think to bring to light, how important biking has been throughout this COVID experience. And, the fact that early on, when many businesses were forced to close in many states, I recall an interesting article that came about because I think it was New York and California were some of the first states to close businesses. And it was the bicycling community that advocated that bike shops are an essential business that needed to stay open. And a lot of that had to do with a lot of the mass transit that got shut down in some of those urbanized areas, which really required people to depend on biking as a means of transportation. And so a lot of people were pulling out their rusty cobweb bikes from the rafters of their garage and needed some tuning up and maintenance, which you need bike shops to be open to be able to do that. And so that created some momentum across all the other states as they shut down businesses. I had noticed here in Minnesota too, that bike shops were considered an essential business, which I think is saying something. You know, so it's kind of neat to see how many people were out enjoying their bikes this summer, and the bike shops I know have done quite well. I've heard, you know, it's difficult to even purchase a bike right now, that they're out of inventory. So I think there's a lot of excitement around that, and you know, some of the efforts that this particular committee was working towards. So I look forward to getting that group back together. But some other kind of interesting things as it relates to bicycle friendly is some updates just in terms of trail projects around the area. So here in Chaska, our Public Works Department through Brian Jung recently finished a new trail connection by the turbine site, which is located by the power plant down there by the river. And so they repaved some trail up there, which really creates a trail at a higher elevation, because the current one, even during a moderate flood, can be underwater. So this really allows people to pass through there a little more consistently throughout those years. And so that goes all the way over to Bolt Street and really gets people in those neighborhoods, I think, some good access to those trails over there. And then Brian mentioned that in the next few weeks, the Public Works Department is planning to overlay the trail along Huntermark Road, and that'll occur from Pioneer Trail up to Hazeltine Boulevard. So that'll be a new overlay there. And then Dave Rohn and I actually sat on a meeting this past week, which is the Eastern Carver County Linking Trails Committee, another lengthy committee name. But that's an opportunity to get together with some of the other adjoining cities, you know, and really to talk about trails and trail connections, more importantly. But there's some exciting things going on there as well. So work has begun on a 2-mile segment along Highway 5, the Highway 5 Regional Trail. And this would be between Minnewaska Parkway and Century Boulevard in Chaska. And I know that trail's, because it goes through it actually connect the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum. And then there's a part of it that goes through a wetland that's going to incorporate a lengthy boardwalk as well. And so if all goes well, that trail segment will be slated to be completed sometime next year in July. Also, progress is being made on the LRT regional trail. If you recall, there was that slope failure that occurred on that segment over in Chanhassen. And so that's been quite amount of work that Marty Walsh has done with Carver County and several other agencies to figure that out. And so my understanding is that trail segment's actually gonna be dropped by about 18 feet in elevation. And so they're making progress with the hopes of that opening up sometime late October, early November. And then lastly, we heard that the new mountain bike trails over at Carver Park Reserve are going to be completed with an opening on October 10th. And so that was a project that was funded through a Lifetime Fitness Foundation. And then it's my understanding that Three Rivers Park District will be maintaining it, and that Carver County contributed some of the equipment necessary to maintain the trail. So good collaboration there. I believe there's 10 miles worth of trail that'll be over there. And so it's neat to see that there's going to be another option for some off-road mountain bike trails here in the southwest area. I don't know if you have anything more to add on that, Dave, based on that meeting, but
No, that's pretty much hit the highlights right there. Pretty good.
yeah, it's exciting.
It is. It is. A lot of things are starting to move. You know, it's been a long time coming on a number of those projects, but yeah, they're coming to fruition. So it's very good news. Any questions for Marshall related to the bicycle-friendly community?
I do. Is there any part of the projects in terms of trail maintenance or expansion on signage? So I've had the opportunity to really do a lot of biking this, and you'll come to a point and you can go either way, and you're like, well, which way shall I go? I've noticed in some other communities, there's some nice signage that says, this will take you to this place, and this will take you to that place. Is that part of the plans?
Great question. Yes, and that's been one of the comments that I've heard since coming to Chaska is we've got awesome trails. I think we've got close to 75 miles worth of trails. But you can get lost out there. And I know I've experienced that, and a lot of my initial experience out on the trails has been with other staff members so I can learn it. But we recently did do a pilot study with Carver County that included the city of Victoria as well, in which we defined a couple of routes. And so one of them was the downtown Orange Loop. And then we did another one that was the Green Line. And then the Green Line connected the downtowns of the city of Carver, city of Chaska, and then up to the city of Victoria. And so that was really intended to be a way to get some feedback. You know, we put out some signage that we thought was pretty good, but then Carver County hired a consulting company to do some feedback, get some feedback. So they intercepted people out on the trails. They went to some of the community events. They had an online survey. And so we did get some feedback from that I think will inform us as we think about more whole system-wide trail wayfinding program. And I see that as something that would come out of this bicycle-friendly community group. And one of the things that is exciting is in working with Pat Stieg with Carver County Health and Human Services and access to some grant funds is we're going to be able to essentially develop a master plan for biking and for bicyclists and pedestrians here in Chaska. And so that'll be a process that we'll undergo that will incorporate, you know, some evaluation and gather some community feedback. Because it was evident in the results from the survey that people would definitely explore more of the trails if they felt more confident through the signage. You know, I think we can assume people have the technology on their phones and whatnot, but it's just not practical to be looking at that while you're pedaling. I know I've tried it, and part of it is because I need my reading glasses to look at things that small, but you tend to have to stop and then try to enlarge your screen. And then quite frankly, there's areas in town where it doesn't get the best cell signal, you know, so you can't really rely on the cell phone either. So hopefully that answered your question. Yeah.
Good.
All right. Any other questions for Marshall? All right, we're going to move on to item 8F, Cycle Chaska on September 26th.
Yeah, so this kind of obviously relates to the last update, but we are, as a department, planning a Cycle Chaska event that will occur in a couple weeks, Saturday, September 26th. And doing it in a COVID-friendly way, but it's really us just trying to encourage the community to get out and experience some of the things we have to offer from a cycling standpoint here in Chaska. And so there's going to be a few options. People will have the option to meet up right over at the new Hawks Ridge Trails, in which Tim Vosberg, who's one of the Chaska mountain bike team coaches and one of the people that was integral in helping to get those trails done over there, will be on site along with some of the other kids on the team to give people some tips and tricks on mountain biking, and then generally lead people on some of the trail rides. Second option will be a family-friendly option in which people will meet at Lions Park, and they'll get to experience riding on the trails with an out and back route over to Athletic Park. But people can choose to turn around wherever they feel most comfortable to come back. And then the third one will be a 20-mile-ish road ride. And so that'll also be meeting up at the Lions Park on that morning of September 26th. The road ride's just going to have one option starting at 9 a.m. With a capacity of 25 people. The mountain bike and the family-friendly ride options, there'll be a few different time slots. People do need to register, and there's 25 people per time slot. So that information's out on our website and out on our Facebook and whatnot. So check it out, and I encourage you, along with potentially your families, to participate.
Excellent. Any questions for Marshall on that? Okay, that moves us on to agenda item number 9, which is other business. And with that moves us into item 9A, which is our board roundtable. And so with people here and out in Zoom land, we're going to go ahead and just kind of go around the horn here. And Commissioner Ives, do you have anything that you would like to comment on here during our roundtable discussion?
I was just going to mention that I can attest to the popularity of bicycling right now. I went into that Michael's Cycles place or shop in downtown a few weeks ago, and they said they were backed up like 4 to 6 weeks for a tune-up, and they were saying they were echoing the same thing Marshall said about being unable to really provide the inventory that people are looking for. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting point that he made about that.
Good point, Josh. Anything else?
No, thanks for all your information tonight.
All right, excellent. All right, Commissioner Weinveen.
Hello. I happened to receive this in the mail, the Neighbors of Chaska magazine, and I just wanted to call out a couple of good articles in there that I read. One article was by Marshall, and he highlighted the difference between some of the parks in Chaska, the neighborhood parks versus the big city parks, and referenced the link to the website where you can go on and see what's available at each park. It gives great pictures, descriptions of what's available. So I thought that was a nice article. And then another article I wanted to call attention to was someone must have been listening to our Park and Rec board meeting from last month, where I believe it was Jason talked about disc golf, and there was an article about disc golf. And admittedly, I have not done it, but read the article and it sounded fun. It said that you can get rental equipment for the disc to play at the community center free of charge. So I think that's what my family will be doing sometime in the next month here, to get outside and enjoy the nice fall weather. So thought everyone should check out those articles.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. Commissioner Branch.
Nothing for me this week. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Downs.
I've got a request for a future project one of these days. That there's a bike park in Cottage Grove that is gigantic, and they've still got one phase to build on the thing, and it will be the largest in Minnesota. My son-in-law and grandson have been out there several times, and they say it's wonderful. And also one that's similar, in at least in their eyes, is in Woodbury. It's really a nice bike thing. And there's room over in Lions Park with the pump track, and that it could be expanded, and it could rival some of these places, and it would make a nice draw for the community.
Yeah.
So point in the future out there to think about that.
Get it on the wish list.
Get it on the wish list, please.
Yeah, sounds great.
I got.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. Commissioner Uterman.
A lot of naming conversations we've had over the last 6+ months. We talked about Legacy Park. Last time I mentioned Farmers Park. Somebody suggested Teachers Park as a possible naming in the future. And I thought that was worth bringing to the head, particularly with the intentionality around the Harvest area of the new school, and the area where there's going to be a possible park, to not only honor teachers that have put a lot of time, energy into it, but maybe somebody that's gone above and beyond phenomenally wise, to honor those folks with some attribute within that park. I think it's worth considering, at least to put it on a short list. I know we were a little bit leery of named parks, but maybe an element within a park that would dovetail very nicely. Second thing, when I was walking in tonight in the event center, I counted 12 cars from 12 different states. I just thought it was eye-opening. It wasn't just Iowa and Wisconsin. I saw Georgia and Florida and God knows what else. I don't know how these people get here. Maybe they're just rental cars. I don't know. But if there's 12 states in the lot, I think that's kind of cool. And I don't remember where we were at recently or conversation, but this is, I think, still the largest curling center in the U.S. based on membership. And I think that that's cool that we have it right here in Carver County. Par 30, I had a friend reach out to me and say his company came on board for a $5,000 contribution. This guy was ordinarily not involved with City of Chaska, with Park, or anything of the sort, but he felt a sense of pride being able to get his company involved with something as cool as what's going on at Par 30 and the updates there. Had a town course resident reach out to me by a bunch of other conversations, and somebody says, you should talk to him, he's on the park board. And I'm guessing you guys get the same thing. You should talk to him, he's on the park board. But this resident had organized a lot of thoughts as to what you saw for the town course park up there by the right by the golf course. And of course, my first step was to talk to her, and then I talked to Marshall, and then I talked to Brian Jung. And it's a kind of a spaghetti plate full of all the things that have to happen, but a couple of things that came out of it. One, there was a concerned citizen that had done her research, that genuinely wanted something that was updated. And then it got met with knowledge with Marshall and with Brian and all the different pieces, and they're accessible, right? It happened relatively quickly. And then there was an education back piece to say, have you ever thought about the safety end? Have you ever thought about the noise for the residents? Have you ever thought about the funding mechanism? And then Brian offered, I don't know if most people know this, but every 20 to 25 years, these parks get slated for an update. And even before we jumped to the conclusion that nothing was being done, there was already a master plan conversation that was done pre-COVID. I'm sure those plans will be delayed, but if anybody's listening, about every 20 to 25 years, those parks get regenerated. And it's typical within the process that you reach out to the local neighbors and the local community for that input. I was just so enthused by that. So from start to finish, and we're not to finish yet, But to have that resident's concern be heard, be reasonable about what the complications would be associated with it. And then the last thing is we had the opportunity to experience Hawks Ridge. And I took a hybrid bike, which was not the right thing to do. It was tough. I mean, I'm not a regular cyclist by any means. I see the economic impact and some of the other things, but it was cool to be on there and actually see the view of 212 and the level of safety and see a piece of land that some said nothing could be done there. It couldn't happen. And 12 to 18 months and 4,082 meetings later, it's there. And it's cool to see there's big vehicles that pull up with a trailer and there's multiple vehicles parked on the side of the road and there's kids and there's adults and it's just exciting to be there. And so I'm hoping not in the not so distant future, our 5-year-old's going to be able to ride that with me. So good job.
All right, thanks, Matt. Commissioner Keyport.
Yeah, I enjoy coming to these meetings. This is a great meeting. Despite COVID, it's amazing how much gets done and how much has progressed. It's really impressive. I personally have been hibernating, but I enjoy still the community center, workout area, and then the trails. But I'm actually, as a result of this meeting, really excited about this Arts Consortium. I think this is going to be, I'm really excited to see where that goes.
All right, thanks, Georgianne. And Commissioner Saresic.
Like Georgianne, I get questions all the time on the trails about directions. Well, I just thought that was something I've been meaning to bring up at one of these meetings, but I'll see people looking around and I'll just instinctively now walk up to them and be like, oh, you looking for a hunter mark? Or you go this way or that. And sometimes people are like, no, I'm just looking around enjoying the nature. Okay. But I just instinctively now give people directions when I see them down on the trail. So I got a lot out of this meeting today, and I learn a lot when I come to these meetings, and I also learn a lot in between these meetings. And one of the things I mentioned before we actually started the meeting today was that I didn't realize that we had an archery program here, and my middle daughter, who turned 8 today, had her first archery class that Park and Rec is involved in. And I didn't even know that we had that. But I know that my wife had signed her up for it. I said, hey, who's playing that out? She says, Park and Rec. So I think that's just awesome. It's just a fun, unique activity for a little 8-year-old girl to get to do after school. So that was really cool. I had more of an open-ended question about, I don't even know if this is even relevant to Park Board, but Halloween's coming up. And this is kind of a weird year for everybody. And, my thoughts about how people are going to celebrate Halloween this year and kids and families getting out trick-or-treating and whatnot. I'm just curious if there's a role for Park and Rec.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did have some discussion about this at our city's EOC, Emergency Operations Center. Again, just trying to figure out what feels right in terms of sort of a community event. And the idea that our recreation staff have is different than what we've done in the past over at Athletic Park. But it would essentially be moving that event over to Community Park, in which we would have time slots where people would register for, so we can keep control of the amount of people. But essentially we are going to utilize the trail that goes around the ballparks over there. So it's a circular type trail. And then we're going to work with people to have, some interactive things for families to do as they walk around that trail. But we anticipate that being like anywhere from like a 30 to 40 minute experience for families to get out and so we really think that what we're providing is actually a safe alternative to traditional trick-or-treating. I know that I had read a recent article that Los Angeles County was canceling everything out there, and one of their reasons was just a concern about kids not being able to socially distance in groups on people's front porches and stoops and whatnot. So I think it's another example of where, you know, Parks and Recreation can really provide a solution by utilizing our parks and our trails and getting people to still be kind of experience something, but spread out and doing it in a controlled way. And so we actually recently put that out in our recreation programming update just the other day, and I think we've already gotten 100+ people to register
Oh, nice.
for that program. So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah,
Yep.
I don't know if it's something that fits nice and neatly in the Park and Rec box, but it's like you said, it's just get creative, and you see there might be a need there, and you've got a creative solution, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I generally advocated at the EOC that, you know, if we can put on events where, you know, we're controlling numbers, we're spread out, and more importantly, we're moving. So the cycle event and now this Halloween event, you know, I think that's about as safe as we can be right now, which, you know, generally is different than, you know, an event where you're gathering people and you're just standing around in one place. So we as an EOC felt like we were comfortable moving in that direction. So it's exciting to be able to offer some things to the community, you know, because I think you still got to balance that mental health issue that's out there too, and just getting people out and having something to look forward to.
Appreciate it. I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'm just gonna add one thing here. We've covered a lot of ground here today. I just wanted to circle back though on the Arts Consortium of Carver County and express my enthusiasm for that and the possibilities that I think that has for our community. I think a lot of people don't realize and might be, you know, scratching their head saying, what's, you know, Park and Rec doing with the arts? Well, turns out that the Park and Rec department is also about the arts, and it's right in the title. And so it's Parks and Recs, I'm sure the exact verbiage of it, and arts. And so we have over the years been involved in a lot of the art projects. And of course, there's the gallery there at the community center and what have you. But I think we've gotten away from it a little bit. And I don't know if there's anything particularly wrong with that, but I think this really gets us back in a big way. And I'm really excited for the possibilities of what that group can bring in their partnership with the city at the community center there. So that's all I have. And so I know we're getting on 2 hours here, so we're going to go ahead and does anyone have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Uderman, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we got to go in order here. Commissioner Ives, in favor of adjourning.
Aye.
Commissioner Weinveen.
Aye.
Commissioner Branch.
Aye.
Downs.
Yep.
Uderman.
Aye.
Keyport.
Aye.
Saresic.
Hi.
All right, we are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.